Hello, welcome to another video on our channel. Here, we translate testimonies from people who have had near-death experiences and other spiritual experiences. Today, let's learn the story of Ethan Thornwood. He says that he died and met a spiritual guide who revealed the truth about God and the purpose of creation. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. Leave a comment with your name and city. Let's now hear Ethan's testimony. My name is Ethan Thornwood, and before everything changed, I was what many would call a typical businessman. Born and raised in Boston, I built my career in finance, climbing the corporate ladder with relentless determination. My days were filled with endless meetings, high-stakes negotiations, and the constant search for the next big deal. I prided myself on being pragmatic, rational, and most of all, skeptical of anything that couldn't be quantified or scientifically proven. Spirituality, that was for the weak, I thought. He firmly believed that we were the sole masters of our destiny, and that success and failure were direct results of our actions and decisions. The idea of a higher force or a greater purpose for life beyond the accumulation of wealth and status seemed, to me, naive at best. My routine was predictable, waking up early, working out in my building's exclusive gym, drinking a quick coffee while reading the latest financial market news, and then diving headfirst into work. Evenings were often occupied with business dinners or social events where networking was as important as the food served. I had everything I thought I wanted: a penthouse apartment overlooking the Charles River, a luxury sports car in the garage, and a constantly growing bank account. Relationships, well, those were complicated. I had gotten divorced a few years earlier, convinced that marriage was an obstacle to my professional ambitions. Close friends were few. Most of the people in my life were business contacts or superficial acquaintances. However, there were moments, usually late at night when silence took over my empty apartment, when I felt an inexplicable emptiness. A nagging feeling that, despite all my material success, something fundamental was missing. But I would quickly dismiss these thoughts, attributing them to stress or tiredness. Little did I know that my life was about to take a dramatic turn, a change that would force me to question everything I believed in and take me on a journey beyond the limits of existence itself. The event that triggered this transformation began innocently enough, with a message from a friend about a new energy supplement. At the time, I could not have imagined how this simple decision to try something new would change the course of my life forever. It was a Tuesday like any other, or at least it seemed that way at first. I was in the middle of an important meeting with investors when my phone buzzed with a message from Daniel, a friend and business partner. Daniel has always been the type of person who was on the cutting edge of the latest trends in health and wellness, constantly trying out new supplements and diets. His message talked about a new supplement he had discovered, something that supposedly increased energy and focus instantly, without side effects. Normally, I would be skeptical of such claims, but Daniel was someone I trusted when it came to these matters. Plus, the idea of having an extra edge in my busy day was tempting. We agreed to meet up after work to try the supplement together. The rest of the day went by normally. I closed a big deal and decided it deserved a celebration. Daniel and I met at a fancy restaurant in downtown Boston. The atmosphere was sophisticated, with soft lighting and the buzz of conversations in the background. We ordered our drinks, an 18-year-old whiskey for me, a gin and tonic for Daniel, and toasted our success. It was then that Daniel took a small vial out of his pocket. "Here you go," he said, his eyes shining with excitement. "They say this is the future of productivity." I looked at the little white pills with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. But in that moment, my trust in Daniel and my desire for a competitive advantage overcame any hesitation. We took the supplement with our drinks, laughing at our little adventure. The first few minutes were great. I felt a wave of energy run through my body. My mind became clearer and more alert. We talked excitedly about new projects and business possibilities. But then, about half an hour later, things started to change. Daniel was the first to show signs that something was wrong. He turned pale. His hands began to shake slightly. "Ethan," he said, his voice shaking. "I'm not feeling well." Before I could respond, his eyes rolled back in his head and he passed out, falling out of his chair. Panic set in at the restaurant. I screamed for help as I knelt beside Daniel. My mind raced, torn between worry for my friend and a growing fear of what was next for me. As the paramedics arrived and tended to Daniel, I felt the first waves of nausea and dizziness hit me. Determined to maintain my composure, I struggled to my feet and headed to the bathroom. I needed to compose myself, splash some water on my face, and go back to help Daniel. Little did I know that when I walked through that bathroom door, I was about to embark on the most extraordinary and transformative journey of my life. As I entered the bathroom, my vision began to blur. The marble walls seemed to undulate and move as if they were alive. I clung to the sink, my fingers clenching the cold porcelain in a desperate attempt to keep myself upright. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the pale, sweaty face staring back at me. It was then that everything fell apart. A wave of vertigo hit me so hard that I lost my balance. My head hit the edge of the sink with a dull thud, and I fell backwards, my body hitting the tiled floor with an impact that echoed through the empty bathroom. The pain was momentary and intense, but it soon gave way to a feeling of numbness that quickly spread throughout my body. I tried to move, to scream for help, but my muscles wouldn't respond. It was as if I was trapped inside myself, unable to communicate with the outside world. And then, something extraordinary happened. I felt a feeling of weightlessness, as if I were floating. Suddenly I realized I was looking at my own body lying on the bathroom floor. It was a surreal sight. I could see every detail with stunning clarity. My expensive suit now wrinkled, a small pool of blood forming where my head had hit the sink. There was no fear in that moment, just an intense curiosity and a sense of peace that I had never experienced before. It was as if all the worries and stresses in my life had been washed away, leaving only a pure, serene consciousness. I watched as the restaurant manager, worried about my long absence, forced open the bathroom door and found me unconscious. I saw the panic in his eyes, heard him scream for help. Paramedics arrived quickly, their frantic movements contrasting with the calm I felt. "He's gone," I heard one of them say, his voice thick with professional regret. See my body being placed in a black bag, prepared to be taken away. It was surreal, like watching a scene from a movie, except I was the protagonist. It was at that moment that I noticed something strange. One of the paramedics, a young man who looked like he was on his first day on the job, began to glow. It wasn't a physical glow, but a sort of golden aura around his heart. And then, I heard a voice, calm, steady, and filled with an authority I couldn't question. "This one is not dead." The young paramedic hesitated, looking at my body with a doubtful expression. Then, as if driven by an invisible force, he began trying to resuscitate me. His more experienced colleagues protested that it was useless, but he persisted, shock after shock from the defibrillator, rhythmic chest compressions, and adrenaline injections. I watched it all with detached interest, and then I felt a tug. It was as if an invisible string was pulling me back into my body. The pain returned suddenly, intense and overwhelming. My chest burned, my lungs struggled to breathe, my heart beat frantically, as if trying to make up for lost time. Darkness began to envelop me, but it wasn't the darkness of death. It was the darkness of life returning. In the midst of the pain and confusion, I felt something else. A wave of pure and unconditional love enveloped me, like a cosmic hug. It was comforting and scary at the same time, as I had never experienced anything so intense and profound before. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, everything changed again. The pain disappeared, the darkness dissipated, and I found myself enveloped in a bright, welcoming light. I was being taken away from the scene of my death and resurrection, to a place of peace and serenity that defied earthly description. As the light around me intensified, I began to make out a shape materializing. It was a tall figure, dressed in a white robe that seemed to radiate its own light. As he got closer, I could see his face, serene, wise, with eyes that seemed to contain the knowledge of millennia. "Welcome, Ethan," said the figure, his voice ringing not just in my ears, but in my entire being. "I am Asher, your spirit guide." I was momentarily speechless. I, Ethan Thornwood, the inveterate skeptic, was face to face with a being who defied my entire understanding of reality. Part of me wanted to rationalize, explain everything away as a hallucination caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain, but another part, a part I barely recognized, knew this was real. Is this real? I finally managed to stammer out. Asher smiled, a smile full of understanding and compassion. "As real as you want it to be, Ethan. Reality here is shaped as much by our perceptions as it is by universal truths." I looked around me, trying to take in my surroundings. There were no walls, no floor, no ceiling, just light that gently changed color, creating a sense of space without defined boundaries. "Where are we?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. "We're in what you might call an intermediate realm," Asher replied. "A place between the physical world you know and the higher spiritual realms. This is where souls come to reflect, learn, and make crucial choices." Choices. The word hit me hard. "So, I really died." Asher made a gentle gesture with his hand. "Death, as you understand it, is just a transition. Your physical body has stopped functioning temporarily, yes. But your essence, your soul, continues. And now, Ethan, you are faced with a choice." I felt a tightness in my chest, not from physical pain, but from a deep emotion that I couldn't name. "What choice?" "You can choose to continue your spiritual journey, advancing into realms of greater understanding and growth. Or you can return to your physical body and the life you once knew." The thought of going back filled me with sudden fear. Coming back meant pain, confusion, having to face everything I had been and done. Staying here, in this place of peace and light, was tempting. Very tempting. "If I stay," I began, hesitantly. "If you stay, you will experience a peace and love beyond anything you have ever known," Asher said. "But you will also leave behind all the experiences, relationships and lessons you could still have in your earthly life." I thought about my life, about the successes that seemed so important but now felt empty, in the relationships I neglected in search of material success. I thought about my brother Logan, the only person with whom I still had a genuine bond. "What if I go back?" I asked, almost fearing the answer. Asher's eyes shone with ancient wisdom. "If you return, you will have the opportunity to apply what you learned here, to live a life with a new purpose, with a deeper understanding of what really matters. But the path will not be easy. Transformation rarely is." As I contemplated the decision before me, Asher gently placed his hand on my shoulder. The touch was ethereal, but it conveyed a sense of comfort and security that I had never experienced before. "Before you make your decision, Ethan," Asher said, his voice soft but firm, "there are lessons I need to share with you. Knowledge that, regardless of the path you choose, will shape your understanding of existence." I nodded, feeling a thirst for knowledge I had never felt before. Asher began to speak, and each word seemed to resonate with a deep truth that I could feel in every fiber of my being. "First, Ethan, understand the importance of authenticity. In the life you've led, you've often worn masks, presenting yourself as you thought others wanted you to be. But true strength comes from genuinely being yourself, with all your imperfections and singularities." I reflected on how many times I had suppressed my true feelings or desires to conform to others' expectations, or to maintain an image of relentless success. Asher continued, "Second, understand that life has a greater purpose than accumulating wealth or status. Its purpose is to learn, grow, love, and connect with others and the universe around you. I felt a pang of shame as I thought about how I had measured my worth primarily by my financial success and social standing. Third, and perhaps most important, is the power of unconditional love. Love, Ethan, is not just a feeling, but a cosmic force that connects everyone and everything. It is the essence of the universe, and the more you open yourself to giving and receiving love, the more aligned you become with the true nature of existence. As Asher spoke, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. I realized how many opportunities to love and be loved I had wasted in my quest for material success. Asher continued sharing more lessons. Learn to listen to your inner voice, Ethan. It is your connection to universal wisdom and often knows what is best for you, even when your rational mind doubts it. Use technology wisely. It can be a wonderful tool, but don't let it dominate your life or replace genuine human connections. Free yourself from prejudices and judgments. Each soul is on its own learning journey, and it is not up to us to judge the path of others. Understand the power of creation. Your thoughts and intentions shape your reality more than you realize. Use this power wisely and responsibly. Learn to recognize and move away from negative influences. Some people and situations can drain your energy and divert you from your path of growth. Understand that what you perceive as evil often exists to provide opportunities for growth and balance. Without challenges, there would be no evolution. Finally, Ethan, always remember your connection to the whole. You are not separate from the universe, but an integral part of it. Your every action affects the whole, just as the whole affects you. When Asher finished, I felt overwhelmed. It was as if he had received a lifetime of knowledge in a matter of moments. Each lesson resonated deeply with me, illuminating areas of my life that I had neglected or misunderstood. How can I remember all this? I asked, feeling simultaneously inspired and overwhelmed. Asher smiled gently. You don't need to remember with your mind, Ethan. This knowledge is now part of who you are. It will guide you, even if you don't consciously remember every word that was said here. I nodded, feeling a new clarity and purpose forming within me. Asher's lessons had planted seeds of transformation, and I knew that no matter what I chose, nothing would be the same. As I absorbed Asher's profound lessons, I noticed a subtle change in the environment around us. The light, which was already bright and welcoming, began to intensify, taking on nuances and colors that I had never seen before. It was as if the air itself was alive, pulsing with an energy I could almost touch. Asher, noticing my fascination, smiled softly. Ethan, he said, his melodious voice blending with the surrounding light. Are you ready to see beyond? With a graceful gesture of his hand, the space around us expanded. Or maybe it was us who moved. It was hard to tell. Suddenly, I found myself immersed in a scene of indescribable beauty. Before me stretched a vast field of flowers, each one emitting its own soft light. The colors were more vibrant than anything I had ever seen on Earth, some of them completely new to me. The air was filled with a sweet, comforting fragrance, a blend of scents that evoked memories of happiness and peace. In the distance, majestic mountains rose, their peaks covered not in snow but in a shimmering golden light. Rivers of crystal-clear water snaked through the landscape, their surface reflecting light in a way that made it seem like they were flowing with pure liquid love. In the sky, if it could be called heaven, I saw ethereal forms dancing, beings of pure light that moved in complex, harmonious patterns. Their dance seemed to tell the story of the universe, each movement filled with meaning and purpose. What is this place? I asked, my voice barely above a reverent whisper. This, Ethan, replied Asher, is what many on Earth would call paradise. But it is more than a place. It is a state of being, a manifestation of universal love and harmony. As we walked, or floated, I'm not sure, through this celestial realm, I noticed that every step we took made the grass beneath our feet bloom with new life forms. Little creatures of light played around us, their laughter sounding like the most beautiful music. Here, Asher continued, there is no time as you know it. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously. Each soul is free to explore, learn, and grow at its own pace. I observed groups of beings gathered in circles, apparently engaged in deep discussions or sharing knowledge. Others seemed to be in deep meditation, connected with the very essence of the universe. There's no pain here, I noted, voicing the thought out loud. Asher nodded. Pain, as you know it, does not exist in this realm, but growth continues. The souls here still face challenges. They still learn and evolve. The difference is that they do so with a complete understanding of the purpose behind each experience. As we walked, I felt an overwhelming presence, a feeling of love so pure and intense, it almost knocked me over. It was as if the very fabric of this place was woven with threads of unconditional love. What you are feeling, Asher explained, noting my reaction, is the presence of the Creator. Here, the connection to the source of all existence is direct and constant. I was amazed. All my life, I had doubted the existence of something greater, something beyond the physical world that I could see and touch. Now, immersed in this transcendent reality, I felt small and, at the same time, part of something immensely big and meaningful. Why are you showing me this? I asked Asher, feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of what I was experiencing. Asher looked at me with compassion. So that you understand, Ethan, that there is so much more to existence than the physical world you have known, so that you see the potential for love, harmony, and growth that exists in every soul, and so that no matter what choice you make, you carry with you the memory of this greater reality. As I contemplated his words, I felt a deep sense of peace wash over me. For the first time in my existence, I felt truly at home, truly part of something bigger than myself. And it was in that moment of crystal clarity that I understood I had a crucial decision to make. A decision that would shape not just my future, but potentially the future of many others. Standing there, immersed in the indescribable beauty of paradise, I felt the weight of the decision I was about to make. Stay in this kingdom of peace and eternal love, or return to earthly life with all its challenges and uncertainties. Never before had a choice seemed so monumental. I looked at Asher, seeking guidance in his wise eyes. How can I choose? I asked, my voice shaking with the magnitude of the moment. How can I leave all this perfection behind? Asher smiled understandingly. Ethan, there is no wrong choice here. Both paths lead to the growth and evolution of your soul. The question is, which journey do you feel you need to take now? I closed my eyes, trying to listen to my inner voice as Asher had taught me. Images of my earthly life flashed through my mind. The empty successes, the missed opportunities for connection, the void I tried to fill with material possessions, but I also saw flashes of possibility. Chances to make a difference, to truly love, to live with a new purpose. Then a clear image appeared in my mind. My brother Logan, glimpses of him in our moments together, laughing, sharing, simply being brothers. And then I saw him, alone, crying for my loss. The pain on his face was palpable, even in this vision. At that moment, I felt a certainty form within me. I opened my eyes and looked at Asher. I need to go back, I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions I felt. Asher nodded, a gentle smile on his face. Are you sure, Ethan? Once you return, the memories of this place will fade, the lessons will remain, but the clarity you have now will be obscured by the veil of physical existence. I took a deep breath, feeling the heavenly air fill my lungs one last time. I'm sure, I replied. There is so much I still need to do, so much love to give, so many lessons to learn and share. I cannot abandon this opportunity. You speak wisely, Ethan, Asher said, placing a hand on my shoulder. Remember, even if you do not clearly remember this place or our conversations, the essence of what you learned here will remain with you. It will guide your actions and decisions, even if you do not fully understand where that guidance comes from. I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Thank you, Asher, For everything. How can I repay you for everything you've shown me and taught me? Asher smiled, his eyes shining with a heavenly light. Live, Ethan. Live fully, love deeply, and share the light you found here with everyone who crosses your path. That is the greatest gratitude you can offer. I nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. Sadness at leaving this place of perfection, but also a growing excitement for the journey that lay ahead. Go and live the extraordinary life you are destined to live. With those words, I felt a tug. The light around me began to intensify, getting brighter and brighter until all I could see was pure white. And then, darkness. The first thing I felt was pain. A sharp, pulsing pain that seemed to emanate from every cell in my body. Then came the sound, a steady, rhythmic beeping that I vaguely recognized as the sound of a heart monitor. Slowly, with an effort that seemed superhuman, I opened my eyes. The fluorescent light from the hospital ceiling momentarily blinded me. I blinked several times, trying to focus my vision. The sterile white walls of the hospital room slowly came into focus. The smell of antiseptic filled my nostrils, so different from the heavenly fragrance I vaguely remembered experiencing. I tried to move, but my body felt heavy, like it was tied to the bed. It was then that I noticed pressure in my right hand. Turning my head with difficulty, I saw my brother Logan sitting next to the bed, holding my hand. His eyes were closed, his face marked by tiredness and worry. "Logan," I tried to say, but my throat was dry, and the word came out as a hoarse whisper. "Ethan." Logan's voice was a mix of disbelief and joy. He squeezed my hand tighter, as if he feared I might disappear if he let go. "Water," I managed to mutter. Logan quickly grabbed a glass with a straw and brought it to my lips. The cool liquid ran down my throat, bringing momentary relief. "You're back," Logan said, his voice cracking with emotion. "The doctors, they said you were unlikely to wake up. You've been in a coma for 2 weeks, Ethan." 2 weeks? It felt like it had only been a moment since I was... where? The memories were hazy, slipping like sand through my fingers the harder I tried to grasp them. There was a lingering feeling that I had experienced something profound, something that had fundamentally changed who I was, but the details were beyond my reach. "What happened?" I asked, my voice still weak. Logan took a deep breath before responding. "You had an adverse reaction to a supplement. Cardiac arrest in a restaurant bathroom. When the paramedics arrived, you were already..." He paused, unable to say the word. "But one of them didn't give up. He kept trying to get you back long after the others had given up, and then, somehow, his heart started beating again." As Logan spoke, flashes of memory flashed through my mind. The feeling of floating above my own body, watching the paramedics work. And there was something else. Something important that I couldn't fully remember. "I saw something," I muttered. More to myself than to Logan. My brother leaned forward, curious. "What did you see, Ethan?" I closed my eyes, trying to capture the fragments of memory that danced on the periphery of my consciousness. "Light," he said finally. "Lots of light. And peace. A peace I've never felt before." Logan nodded, his eyes shining with a mixture of fascination and concern. "The doctor said experiences like this are not uncommon in near-death cases. But Ethan, the important thing is that you're back." I opened my eyes again, looking at my brother. For the first time, I really saw him. The worry lines on his face, the weariness in his eyes, the relief in his smile. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me, a love for my brother that was deeper and purer than anything I had ever felt before. "Logan," I said, my voice firmer now. I'm sorry. For everything." He seemed surprised by my words. "What are you sorry about?" "For not being the brother you deserved, for being so focused on my career, on accumulating wealth, that I neglected what really matters. You, our family, real connections." Logan was silent for a moment, clearly impacted by my words. Then, With tears in his eyes, he squeezed my hand again. "Ethan, you're here now. That's all that matters." At that moment, I felt a certainty form within me. Although the specific memories of my experience during my death were hazy, I knew with crystal clarity that my life would never be the same. Something had fundamentally changed in me, and I was determined to honor that change. "Things are going to be different now, Logan," I promised. "Both to him and to myself. I'm going to be different." My brother smiled, a smile full of hope and love. "I'm here for you, Ethan. Always have been." As I lay in the hospital bed, exhausted but strangely at peace, I knew I was at the beginning of a new journey. The days following my awakening in the hospital were a mix of physical challenges and emotional revelations. Recovery was slow and, at times, painful. My body, weakened by the prolonged coma, struggled to perform even the simplest tasks. But every day, I felt an inner strength growing, a determination that went beyond mere physical recovery. Visits from doctors and nurses were frequent, all marveling at what they called my miraculous recovery. Tests were performed, questions were asked, but no one seemed able to fully explain how I had survived such a prolonged cardiac arrest without apparent brain damage. But as my body struggled to recover, my mind and spirit felt more alive than ever. I began to see the world around me with new eyes. We spent hours talking, remembering our childhood, sharing hopes and fears. It was as if we were reconnecting after years of distance, and with each conversation, I felt the weight of years of neglect dissolving, replaced by a deep love and gratitude. As my physical strength returned, I began to make changes in my life. The first thing I did was resign from my position at the company. The decision shocked many, but to me, it was clear as day. The money and status that had once seemed so important now seemed empty compared to the lessons he had learned. Instead, I began exploring ways to use my experience and resources to make a difference in people's lives. I started a foundation dedicated to supporting research into near-death experiences and providing support to people who have experienced similar traumatic events. My perspective on relationships has also changed drastically. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected, apologizing and seeking to rebuild bridges I thought were permanently burned. To my surprise and gratitude, many responded with openness and forgiveness. One of the most significant changes was in my personal life. A few months into my recovery, I met Sarah, a therapist who worked with patients recovering from trauma. Our connection was immediate and deep. For the first time in my life, I allowed myself to be truly vulnerable with someone, sharing not only my successes but also my fears and insecurities. The love that grew between us was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Deep, unconditional, and nurturing. I began practicing meditation and mindfulness, seeking to maintain a connection with that sense of peace that I vaguely remembered from my near-death experience. Although specific memories remained hazy, the sense of having experienced something beyond this world persisted, guiding my actions and decisions. It wasn't an easy transition. There were moments of doubt, moments when the old Ethan threatened to resurface, tempted by the promise of power and wealth. But each time I felt lost, I remembered that sense of peace and purpose I had experienced. It grounded me, reminded me of what really mattered. Over time, I began to share my story with others. Initially, it was just with close friends and family. But soon, I was invited to speak at conferences and events, sharing not only my near-death experience, but the lessons I had learned about life, love, and purpose. My message was simple but powerful. Life is precious. Every moment is an opportunity to love, grow, and make a difference. He talked about the importance of living authentically, of cultivating genuine connections, of seeking a greater purpose that transcends material success. As the years passed, I saw my life transform in ways I never could have imagined. The man obsessed with success and status had given way to someone who found joy in simple things, who valued relationships over possessions, who sought to make a difference in the lives of others. And although the details of my near-death experience remained a mystery, the transformation it triggered was undeniable. I had died, yes, but I had also been reborn, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. Today, 20 years after that fateful night at the restaurant, I sit in my home office, looking out the window at the garden that Sarah and I cultivated together. The afternoon sun casts a golden glow over the flowers and trees, vaguely reminding me of that heavenly light I experienced so long ago. I think about everything that has changed since then. The man I was, obsessed with success, power, and material wealth, seems like a stranger now. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I still see traces of that Ethan, but it's like looking at an old photo of a distant relative. The journey was not easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when the weight of expectations, both mine and others, threatened to pull me back into old habits. But each time I felt lost, something inside me, an inner voice, a sense of peace, guided me back to the path. My relationship with Logan has grown and strengthened over the years. He became not only my brother, but my best friend and confidant. Seeing him flourish in his own life, knowing that I play a positive role in it, is one of the greatest joys I experience. Sarah, my wife, has been my rock, my partner on this journey of rediscovery. Your unwavering love and support constantly reminded me of the power of unconditional love. Together, we create a life full of purpose and meaning, focused not on accumulating possessions, but on cultivating relationships and making a difference in the lives of others. The foundation I started has grown beyond my most optimistic expectations. Through her, I had the privilege of meeting and helping countless people who went through experiences similar to mine. Every story I hear, every life we touch, reaffirms my belief that there is a greater purpose in everything we experience. There are still times when I try to remember more details of my near-death experience. Fragments of memories sometimes emerge in dreams or during moments of deep stillness. Flashes of light, feelings of deep peace, the presence of a loving being. But I learned not to hold on to these fleeting memories. What's important is not the specific details of what I experienced, but how that experience transformed my life and the lives of those around me. One of the most profound lessons I've learned is about the nature of reality. The physical world that we experience with our senses is just a small part of a much larger and more complex reality. There is more to life and death than we can comprehend with our limited minds. This understanding brought me deep peace and a constant curiosity about the mysteries of the universe. Another crucial lesson was about the power of love. Not the romantic love idealized in movies and books, but a deeper and more universal love. A love that transcends individual relationships and connects us with all of existence. I've learned that the more we open ourselves to this love, the more it flows through us, transforming not only our own lives, but the lives of everyone around us. The importance of living authentically is something I try to incorporate into every aspect of my life now. No more masks, no more trying to be who I think others want me to be. There is incredible freedom in simply being who you are, with all your imperfections and uniqueness. I also learned the importance of balance. Whereas before I lived in extremes, overwork, relentless pursuit of success, I now seek harmony in all aspects of my life. Work, leisure, relationships, personal growth, they all have their place and importance. As I get older, I find myself thinking about death more often, not with fear or anxiety, but with a quiet curiosity. My experience has taught me that death is not the end, but a transition, a door to, well, to what exactly, I don't know yet. But I'm no longer afraid to find out. If there is one message I would like to leave to those who will read my story, it is this: live fully, love deeply, be grateful for every moment, every breath, every experience, good or bad. Seek a purpose greater than yourself. Connect with others, with nature, with the universe. And always remember that there is more to life than what we can see or touch. My near-death experience was the most transformative event of my life. She taught me not only how to die, but more importantly, how to live. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. As the sun sets below the horizon, casting long shadows across the garden, I feel a deep peace. I don't know what the future holds, nor when my time will come to make this final transition. But I know that when that moment comes, I will be ready. Not with fear or resistance, but with acceptance and gratitude for this incredible journey we call life. And so, I end my story not with a full stop, but with an ellipsis. Because the journey continues, always. And every day is a new opportunity to learn, grow, love, and make a difference. This is the true lesson death taught me about life.